Pippi?
Not so far, Lou. Should I go?
A parlor maid has no business answering doors.
Oh, it's okay. Morgan's is getting it.
Oh, that could take all night.
I expect we're both livid. The wind chill outdoors feels like 90 below.
The evening is tending toward being inclement, yes?
Am I the first?
Miss Sheridan has been here about 20 minutes or so, I believe. Her hair was so much wind blown, she went to the small bathroom at the rear of the hallway to effect repairs.
Hasn't the Edosia come downstairs yet?
Your sister, I believe, is changing her gown, Miss Ansley.
Probably for the 14th time if I know Theo. I don't know who she thinks she's going to impress. What in the world is that?
I haven't any idea. Miss Sheridan fastened it up there when she first arrived, instructing me to allow no one to touch it.
How strange. Let's have a look, shall we?
But Miss Ansley...
Oh, no qualms, Marvin. You did as instructed. I have been informed not to touch it. That I choose not to obey that instruction is no reflection on you.
Naughty, naughty.
Addie, I only wanted to peek at whatever you were being so mysterious about.
Even at the risk of your inheritance?
What? Are you saying this thing has some connection with Uncle Josiah's will?
As a matter of fact, it is Josiah's will.
What? What a roll-up chart? Isn't that a bit unusual?
Josiah Travers was not a usual man.
If you'll excuse me.
You may as well stay, Marvin. After all, the reading of the will is scheduled for 8 o'clock. If you go all the way back to the servants' quarters at your normal speed, you'll never make it back here in time. Forget it. I'll get the door, Marvins. Just stay right there, please.
I'd better go get the rest of the staff.
Come in, before you freeze yourself solid.
Lucretia, Pippi, we're almost ready to start.
I hope this is the Travers residence, because if it's not, I'm staying anyhow. That weather isn't fit for polar bears. Is there a glass of brandy on the premises? Hooray, an oasis. Mind if I help myself?
I don't believe we've been properly introduced.
I don't believe it either. I'm playing fondue. Who are you?
I'm Eloise Ainsley, Miss Travers' sister, but I'm afraid I don't recognize your name at all. Miss Fondue, was it?
Still is. Is there an Addie Sheridan here?
I am Addie Sheridan, Miss Fondue. So glad you could make it.
Friday nights are easy. I don't have to get up for work in the morning.
What sort of work do you do, Miss Fondue?
I'm a kindergarten teacher, and you can call me Flame.
Addie, I don't understand. I mean, I had assumed tonight would be just family.
I am merely following your late uncle's instructions, Eloise. He left a list of names and was most specific about who should come.
I see. Miss, I wonder that is, could you explain how
I knew Josie?
Josie? Do you mean Uncle Josiah?
Well, I could hardly call him that, seeing as he wasn't my uncle now, could I? Come to think of it, how come you do? I mean, he wasn't your uncle either.
Oh, well, I always thought of him as such, and, well, he practically was. Well, he was the uncle of my dear sister Theodosia's late husband, Charles. So you see.
I see that family-wise, you're no more his relative than I am.
You have no right to say that.
Just because it's a fact.
Now, ladies, there's no need to squabble. Especially in front of the servants.
Are we starting pretty soon? I've got a crown roast of lamb in the oven.
Darn, I grabbed me a Big Mac on the way over. You should have told me there'd be refreshments.
Excuse me.
I'll get it, Marvins. Why don't you sit down and get comfortable?
Doesn't seem fitting somehow.
But I've been on my feet all day.
And it is rather special circumstances.
Miss Fondue, you never did tell me how you happen to know my uncle.
It's nothing juicy, really, honey.
I never said that.
But you were thinking.
Ugh.
Hi, I'm Gary Delving. I'm looking for Deb. I hope we're not late. It took forever to find a taxi.
That's okay. We can't start till everyone is present anyhow. Why don't you sit down and get comfortable while you're waiting?
Who else is coming?
Just one more from outside. The others are still upstairs.
Well, hello there. Can I offer you a drink?
Really, Miss Fondue?
Fondue?
Flame.
I'd love to.
It's her name.
What is this place, a parlor or a pet cemetery?
My late brother-in-law, Charles, did taxidermy as a hobby. Quite adept at it, really. Oh, but I'm forgetting my manners. I'm Eloise Ainsley, and this is Pippi, our parlor maid, Lucretia, our cook, and Marvin's our butler.
And I'm Addie Sheridan, the late Josiah Travers lawyer.
So you're Aunt Eloise.
I beg your pardon?
Why? What'd you do?
I'm sorry for the familiarity, Eloise. It's just that Connie always calls you that.
I wasn't aware that you knew my niece.
I hope he does. They're getting married in 2 weeks.
That's impossible.
Well, improbable, perhaps, I'll grant you. Say, where is Connie?
Now, just a moment. My niece Connie is in the social register.
And I'm merely in the Manhattan phone book. Is that it?
I must admit the name Jerry Delvin means absolutely nothing to me.
It's not his fault you don't do crossword puzzles.
I beg your pardon?
Now what'd you do?
Aunt Eloise, that's how Jerry makes his living.
Oh, I hadn't realized you'd all come downstairs yet. But,
Eloise, will you relax? Uncle Josiah introduced him himself. You know how fond he was of puzzles.
oh, yes, but just
Don't be such a party fool, Auntie. A good puzzle constructor can make a very nice living at it. 'Cause, hi, I'm Kissy.
You sure are.
Buzzy, that's short for Kirsten. Don't get any ideas.
Too late. May I fix you a drink?
My sister's under 21.
That's never stopped me before.
I'm putting the last
Doesn't that get the alcohol to the bloodstream even faster?
reading my mind.
who are all these people? I thought tonight was just family.
You fear losing your share of the Travers millions, don't you? The more people in the will, the less money to go around. But I tell you, yes, I tell all of you, this is not an ordinary will.
Zita, don't be ridiculous. You cannot possibly know the terms of
I
Josiah's...
knew Josiah Travers. A man like that would not have an ordinary will.
I hate to say it, but he's probably right.
Have I ever been wrong?
Not so long as I've known you, and Zita's been my companion for most of my adult life.
That is a long time.
Really, Kirsten?
Hold it, things are going a little too fast for me. Can I have a go-round of the names again?
Maybe they should have put in a program.
Here, let me do it for everyone's benefit.
No, wait. Just putting names to people isn't enough. I should like to know why certain persons are here.
Isn't this gathering by invitation only?
Yes, but
I believe Eloise is trying to figure out what possible reason there might be for certain of those invitations.
Okay, now I get it. Well, here, let me start. I'm Jerry Delvin. I make my living creating puzzles for a variety of magazines. I met Josiah Travers one day when he came to my office to complain about an erroneous definition I'd given for a puzzle clue. He was very big on puzzles.
He certainly was. We could barely keep him supplied with enough magazines to satisfy
But
him.
even so, the world must be full of puzzle creators. Why should Uncle Josiah have singled out Mr. Delvin to share in what should be a family inheritance?
For that matter, why didn't he insist on having Miss Sheridan invite Buzzy? Buzzy never even met him.
Then how did he even know Buzzy existed?
Obviously, as a friend of Jerry's, his name must have propped up in the investigation report.
Rita!
Your great uncle had me investigated? Why didn't you tell me?
I was afraid you'd be upset.
You were right. The nerve of him snooping and prying
Jerry,
into...
it's a common practice in wealthy families to be certain that marriageable offspring don't fall prey to fortune hunters.
Well, thanks a
Sorry,
lot.
honey, I didn't stick those detectives on you.
Of course you didn't, Jared. Give her a break, huh?
Oh, hell, I'm sorry, Connie, but you should have told me about it.
I'd still like to know how these two became engaged. Where did they meet? When
The
did they
same day Josiah met Jerry, Aunt Eloise. He didn't drive, you must remember. I was playing chauffeur for him that day, and we all went out to lunch, Jerry, Josiah, and myself, to argue about puzzle clues and such. And well, one thing led to another. Wait a minute. I didn't want anybody's autobiography. I just want to know who's who.
And I merely wish to know what connection anyone had with Josiah.
Then let's keep it simple. We've covered Jerry and Buzzy fairly well. Josiah admired Jerry's line of work, and for reasons known only to Josiah himself, insisted that we invite Jerry's best friend Buzzy to this gathering tonight.
Then you're not in the puzzle business?
Not even close. I'm a pediatrician.
A children's doctor, how interesting. I teach kindergarten.
Well, I knew we must have had something in common. You teach the tots, I give them shots.
Mr. Burdett, may I remind you that we are here for the reading of a will, not to hold auditions for the dating game.
You sound disappointed.
Actually, I think she's dead.
Stay by the bell, I'll get it.
Whom else are we expecting?
Just one more, Eloise, then we can begin. This should be Daniel Denton, the final guest on the list.
Dan, but... Sorry, didn't mean to shout.
Why did you?
It's nothing, Buzzy, nothing at all.
Good evening, my name is Daniel Dent.
Here, Mr. Denton, let me take your coat. I'm Theodosia Travers.
And I'm Kissy. Very happy to make your acquaintance.
Kirsten, when I was a young lady, it was considered unseemly for a girl to speak to a man without being properly introduced. Look at that. Oh.
Nice to meet you, Kissy.
Now that we're all here, perhaps we can
Not
begin...
so fast. We still have a lot of identifying to do.
I thought you mystical types knew everything without being told.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Look, why don't you all find seats, then we can get matters underway, please?
I'm taking the comfortable chair.
Eloise, why don't you join me on the sofa?
Next to the servants.
I'll act as a buffer, dear.
I guess the cheese stands alone.
I'm sure we're not here for musical chairs.
There's the coffee table, if you don't mind.
I don't mind if you don't.
Those legs aren't very sturdy. Why don't you swap with one of the servants? We were here first.
Really, Lucretia?
I don't mind. Honestly, I don't.
My rose, excuse me.
You may as well, Mr. Denton. Anything to get matters over with.
Addie, can we please get on with it? We can always fill Lucretia in later.
That's That's not fair. Just because she has to cook for the lot of you, why don't you go take care of dinner and we'll fill you in later?
You're forgetting your place. Nonsense, Eloise. Even the servants have feelings. But you are speaking out of turn, dear.
Sorry, ma'am.
Now that domestic harmony reigns
Addie,
supreme
there
again.
is no call to be snotty.
Look, while we're waiting for Lucretia, why don't we finish that expose we started on?
Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you, dear.
Not really. I guess I'm just as nosy as you are.
All right, let's have the roll call, but be brief about it. Now, Jerry and Buzzy have been explained, so...
Not to me.
Very well. Take it from the top.
Okay, I'm Jerry Delvin, a puzzle constructor. Josiah loved to do puzzles, and I presume that's why he invited me here tonight.
And I'm Buzzy Burdett, pediatrician. Since there are no tiny pots on the premises, I have to assume that I'm here because I'm Jerry's best friend. Doesn't make sense. There it is.
I'm Flame Fondue, and I teach kindergarten. I met Josie, that is Mr. Travers, at an assembly meeting at my school when he was guest of honor. He donated a new wing to the school, and that's why he was there, to make the formal motions of turning over the check. I must have made an impression on him, I guess.
So we know he was a sound mind.
Oh, Mr. Burdett!
Sorry, what's that?
Well, I'm here because, well, I'm Connie Travers, Josiah's grandniece, and, well, I live here.
Same goes for me, except I'm kissing, not Connie, of course.
Your turn, Eloise.
But why should I have to
Hey,
explain?
Buzz, do it.
Oh, very well. I'm Eloise Ainsley, sister of Theodosia Travers, who was the wife of late Charles Travers, nephew of Josiah. I am here by invitation, because I'm a family member, I suppose.
And I'm the Theodosia she just mentioned. I married Charles about 10 years ago when he was a widower with 2 young daughters to raise. Charles died about 5 years ago. And, well, I've raised Connie and Kissy ever since. And, well, I live here.
I'm Pippi Dixon. I'm the parlor maid. I work here.
And I am Marvin's, the butler. I work here too.
I am Zita Van Zook. I've been Theo's friendly companion for many years. I came here when Charles passed away.
And Lucretia, who just went running out of here, is the family cook, of course. Does that cover everybody?
All except Dan Denton.
This is rather embarrassing.
Did the ladies leave the room?
No, it's nothing like that. It's just, my name is Dan Denton. I've never met Mr. Josiah Travers in my life. I can't possibly imagine why I was invited here this evening.
Really? How very odd. I would have thought that, well, even as Josiah's longtime lawyer, I still cannot be expected to know all of his acquaintances, but he specifically requested that you be in attendance, Mr. Denton.
Wait, perhaps it's not who Mr. Denton is, but what he does. I mean, Josiah would simply say a plumber without knowing the man personally, if you follow.
Hey, that makes good sense. Come to think of it, you never did tell us what you are, Denton.
Only because I couldn't imagine what possible bearing it would have on my presence here.
Well, just what do you do then?
I can tell you that. Daniel Denton is a plainclothes policeman working out of the homicide division.
Oh dear, I thought we were all over that.
There, Eloise. I'm sure it's really some sort of coincidence.
What is?
All over what?
Then you don't know?
I never told Jerry. It was so awful. And the newspapers were not giving the details, and the police commissioner was kind enough to keep things under wraps, as a favor to the family.
He and Josiah had been very close friends.
Whoa, what details?
What under wraps?
Yeah, what's going on around here anyhow?
You may as well know the truth.
Preston!
No, she's right. It has to come out sometime.
Not at the rate it's going.
Connie, what have you been keeping from me?
It was Uncle Josiah. The way he died. You assumed it was of old age, and well, I let you go on assuming it.
Assuming? Connie, you told me your great uncle had died quite peacefully
Well,
in his
he
bed.
did, in a way.
What way?
Somebody chopped him up with a meat cleaver into 17 pieces.
Well, I can see what Connie meant by peaceful. Except that was spelling it wrong.
Do you mean murder?
Dad, a meat cleaver is hardly natural causes, and nobody's committed suicide that way.
Oh, you're all doing it again! Why is he dragging it up? Why are you telling me nothing to do with it? Nothing!
Now see what you've all done. Lou, you don't understand.
What did Lucretia mean?
It was her meat cleaver that did the job. Fortunately, it was her night off, and she had a solid alibi.
Besides, anyone could have gotten that cleaver from the kitchen. We don't keep them locked up or anything.
Can you leave them there or anybody?
Oh, no, we threw it away afterward.
It didn't seem right somehow using it to prepare meals after it had been used for, well...
So these days we purchase our meats ready cut.
I don't blame you.
Well, the pediatrician's day is never done. There's your phone.
Mr. Burdett, if we are ever to get
Addie,
the will
you
read...
can't start without Lucretia and Pippi anyhow.
You're right, Connie, of course. Let me try to get them back.
Listen, while we're waiting, I'm kind of curious how it is that a kindergarten teacher is acquainted with a detective out of homicide.
That's easy. We go to the same aerobics class.
How disappointing. I was hoping you met on a professional basis.
Sorry, I haven't murdered anybody in weeks and weeks.
I'm too tall for kindergarten.
Hello, Dr. Burdett here. Oh, I see. Just put me through. This is Dr. Burdett. What seems to be the problem? Ah, damn. How did it happen? Uh-huh. Well, I guess some adhesive paper on her neck, at least for now. Oh, really? Which foot? And a left ear, too? How many pieces? Heck, I don't know. You better get a specialist. Well, if you really think you can, yeah, sure. Why not? But if Elmer's glue don't do it, I don't think there's much hope. Yeah, keep me posted. Right, bye. My nerves dropped an antique vase.
Oh, God.
I'd still like to know how Josiah happened to invite Dan here tonight. Unless he was into aerobics also.
Oh, at his age, I could barely keep up.
Excuse me, sir, but perhaps I can clear up the mystery somewhat?
Yes?
Well, about a week before Master Josiah about a week before he died, Master Josiah had me telephone the police department and ask them for a list of names of the detective staff. Now, I can only assume Mr. Vincent's name was upon that list.
Well, it would be, of course, but so would a dozen others. Why would you choose me in particular?
I'm sorry, sir. I haven't the faintest idea.
Perhaps when the will is read, the mystery will be cleared up.
I certainly hope so. I find the present situation utterly baffling. Addie, can't we get on with it?
Yes, Miss Sheridan, my curiosity is killing me.
No more than my own. I certainly hope somebody can clarify matters. I want you all to remember that Josiah Travers was not a usual man. Even I, his lawyer, am in the dark about the nature of his final bequests. I can only carry out his orders as I'm doing now, without so much as a shred of real comprehension as to his aims.
Addie, are you saying you don't know who gets what?
That is precisely what I'm saying. And now that I have you all gathered here together, as Josiah specified, you'll see why. Behold, the last will and testament of Josiah Travers.
What is
Hate it if you...
That's his will? What in the world is that?
Looks like pure gibberish.
Daddy, I don't understand.
Hey, are you sure he was of sound mind?
I'm afraid I don't know any more about it than you
You
do.
might have guessed he'd do something like that, the old sly boots.
Jerry, do you mean you can understand that thing?
Well, not quite, of course, but I recognize it for what it is.
What is it?
It's a rebus.
A what?
A picture puzzle. These drawings and things stand for words. It was one of Josiah's favorite puzzle forms.
You mean you can read that thing?
What does it say?
Well, hold it a minute. I could read some of it right off the bat, but other parts will take a little figuring.
Oh, perhaps that's why Jerry was invited here tonight. Uncle Josiah knew we need someone to unscramble that mess.
This doesn't explain why I was invited, though.
I'm sure everything will become abundantly clear once Mr. Dublin reads it to us.
Zita's right. Go ahead, Jerry. What does it say?
Okay, it begins, my friend.
We can see that.
Don't interrupt, Lou.
I have to read the words, you know, so we can see where the pictures fit in between them.
Of course you do, my boy. Go right ahead.
Okay. My friends, please. Then there's sort of a teddy bear with the word me on its chest, followed by a period.
Meaning what?
Let's see now. Bear with me on it. Oh, that's it.
What?
My friends, please bear with me. Period.
Oh, of course. It's obvious once you figure it out.
Yes, but what is that next picture anyhow?
Wait a moment. Someone should be writing this down.
I will.
Okay, this next part's kind of obscure. A pair of rectangles with an arrow indicating the second rectangle, an ace of clubs, the word whose, and what seems to be a bunch of arms and legs.
Oh, dear, that's just like Uncle Josiah's murder.
Eloise, get a hold of yourself. Josiah could not have known what was going to happen to him.
Addie's right, Eloise. Calm down.
Shall I go on or what?
Go on, of course.
Okay. Then we have the words enjoy dabbling in followed by a couple of buses. Oh, that's it.
What?
It means enjoy dabbling in rebuses. See? In rebuses.
Got it. But the stuff that comes before it, what do I put down?
Members!
What?
Those arms and legs, they're members. Something about whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses. Uncle Josiah used to belong to a club that specialized in creating and solving them.
A club. That's the ace of clubs. A club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses.
Yes, but what can those two rectangles mean?
And that's where rebuses get tough. There's so many varieties of terminology possible. Besides being rectangles, they might also be called boxes or tetragons or oblongs. Or maybe they're supposed to be two blank sheets of notepaper end to end.
But that arrow must mean something, doesn't it?
Pippi, a well-trained parlourmaid, only speaks when she's spoken to.
Eloise, under the circumstances, I think propriety should be left by the wayside. If he was invited after all, I think Josiah's will should be fair game for anyone.
Well, then I have a kind of idea. Whatever those two things are, the arrows seem to indicate you should consider only the second one. You see?
Good thinking, Lou.
That's it. Second rectangular club. God, it's meaningless.
Well, wait. Maybe that terminology has its own variation. It could also be rectangle number 2 club.
Or even a belong to.
Kissy, that's it. I belong to a club.
I don't get it.
It's a pun. Most rebuses are. It means I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses.
I still don't get it.
Oblong, I belong.
Oh, yes. Why do you know this is actually
Look, can we please get on with it?
I figured the next part, right after the comma. That is a sign indicating therefore. I remember it from my geometry classes in high school.
Good for you, Morvins.
Got it. What's next?
Okay, this next bit's easy. It's one of the first things I noticed when Miss Sheridan wrote down the chart. Amidst all these words, you have the drawing of an open tin can, a mustachioed balding man with an Elizabethan ruff around his neck, who it must be a Bible just before the next period. Figure the man to be William Shakespeare. I mean, he's certainly Elizabethan, and the sketch looks like a painting of him I saw once.
But what could my last Shakespeare possibly mean?
Not Shakespeare, Will.
Of course. So this next part reads, therefore, I have decided to leave my vast fortune to anyone, friend, relative, or stranger, who can decode this. My last will and,
Testament.
Yes, of course.
I'm afraid I'm stymied by that next part, though. It looks like someone machine gunned a pair of salamis. Anyone else care to give it a try?
Let's see. Holy sausages?
That sounds like a line from Batman and Robin.
Perforated pepperoni.
That illustrates nicely, but what sense does it make?
Actually, those things look like hot dogs to me. But what could punctured hot dogs mean?
Oh, look, let's just skip that part and move on. Maybe it'll make sense once we know the context.
Well, what painting are we supposed to look behind?
That's the only one in the room.
So what's behind it?
Josiah's wall safe. Its location was supposed to be a secret.
Oh, Addie, don't get huffy. Uncle Josiah obviously wanted us to see it. Or why put it in the will? But whose faces are those in the picture?
Well, on the bottom, that's Sandra D, the movie actor.
Yeah, and some kind of animal paw with a whopper of a pimple on it.
And the guy in the middle is Johann Sebastian Bach, if I remember rightly. But who's the gal just to the left of him?
Seems to me she's a movie actress. Her face is very familiar.
Barbara Bach, of course.
Right next to Johann Sebastian Bach. The name similarity must mean something.
Well, let's add it all up and see what we've got.
A wall safe,
Sandra D, of course, with Zit on it.
Barbara Bach.
And Johann Sebastian Bach.
Oh, that doesn't add up to anything.
But it must, otherwise why would Josie have indicated it?
I got it.
What?
A wall safe. Sandra D, a paw with a zip, and a pair of box.
Safe.
See?
Pause it.
Box!
Safe deposit box.
You will find a large sum of, whatever those ventilated weenies mean, in a safe deposit box in a wobbly vase?
Buzzy's nurse, she just phoned about a broken box.
Flame, use your head. How could Josiah have known that my nurse would get Butterfinger the night the will was read?
Well, that's true enough, I guess.
Of course, that silly urn has been loose for a while. Just about ready to take a tumble, but Josiah wouldn't know about it.
Buzzy, that's it!
What?
The sketch doesn't mean a wobbly vase, it means a loose urn.
Of course, it makes perfect sense now.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Lucerne, the town of Switzerland.
Why walk away to Lucerne in Switzerland to fill safe deposit boxes for us Bratwurst?
We'll just have to let the part go for a while. Let's move on.
What's that written on the hypodermic?
Procaine, it's a kind of local anesthetic.
The stuff the dentist pumps into your gums just before he starts drilling.
Oh, that stuff. I hate the way it makes you feel.
On the contrary, Pippi, you mean the way it makes you not feel. Everything goes totally numb.
Not as much as you'd like it to, though. I can still feel it drilling a
You
little.
should tell the dentist when that happens, Kissy, so he'll give you a little more. Oh, no. Bad enough feeling numb without feeling even number.
That's it! It's another pun! Procaine is a number, but when you write it out, it's spelled exactly like number.
Never the safe deposit box in Lucerne. It's more fun all the time. With all due respect to the dear departed, of course.
Oh, come on, Eloise. You're enjoying yourself immensely. Why not admit it?
Well, perhaps a tiny bit.
Are we taking a chance for no one? If we are, I will never.
No, of course we're not. Mr. Delvin, would you please continue?
I don't know if I can. I mean, the significance of that empty mailbox eludes me completely.
Let's try it in context. You will find a large sum of, whatever those hot dogs mean, in a safe deposit box in Lucerne, the number of which is first initially is something. A of this group.
That's odd.
What's odd, Peter?
Why would Josiah say first and initially in the same sentence? They both mean the same thing.
It
don't
must
they?
be some kind of clue.
Yeah, a puzzle lover like Josiah wouldn't make a mistake like that.
Of course, he was expecting a meat cleaver in a moment.
That can't be.
Pippi is quite correct. The will was completed long before Master Josiah was. Of course, that is before.
The will was completed at least a week before his death. Maybe even 2 weeks. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up.
But what about the empty mailbox?
Yeah, we're kind of getting off the track here.
An empty mailbox means there's no mail, obviously. Could it refer to a postal holiday?
The postal holiday of this group, it makes no sense at all.
Maybe it's the name of the holiday, like Christmas.
President's Day.
Memorial Day. Labor Day?
No, they don't seem to make any sense at all.
Maybe a semi-holiday, like Halloween.
Halloween is not the holiday at all, dearie.
It is in Transylvania.
I wonder now.
What?
Well, I was born on Halloween, but I can't seem to fit my birthday into the text. Let's see. The Marvin's birthday of this group.
Hey, maybe that's what those sausages mean.
What?
Halloween.
How do you figure, Buzzy?
Halloweeny? Hell, it's as good as anything else we've thought of.
Buzzy's got a point.
Maybe on the top of his head.
Now stop that. Can we about to think calmly?
All right, all right. Sorry, Dr. Burdette.
Forget it. We're all kind of tense right now.
Letters, that's it! An empty mailbox means missing letters.
Oh, Jerry, honey, that can't be right. I mean, we're looking for numbers, not letters. Right?
Well, yeah, I guess you're right.
Let's just get that clue and move on to the next one. We can always backtrack later.
Good idea. What is the significance of that guy in the toga?
Why is he pushing a teapot away?
A teapot wearing a beret. And don't forget the plus sign right in front of that guy.
Could that guy be Julius Caesar? I mean, he used to wear one of those coral wreaths on his head.
Laurel wreaths?
Whatever.
Caesar, of course. And what was his final word?
Didn't he say et tu, Brute?
He did in the play, but did he in real life?
Yes, I remember that from school. Shakespeare was using an actual quote at that point. That's why he left it in Latin.
But what's that got to do with the brain and the teapot?
Maybe it's a French teapot.
What's French for teapot?
Search me.
The French word for tea is thé, if that's any help.
Wait a minute. Et tu, Brute. Brute. Brewing tea. But get rid of that part.
That leaves et tu, but where does that leave us?
8 and 2. Those are numbers. 8, 2.
Should have done enough. The six ones about the Switzerland would have more than 2 numbers.
Maybe that's what the plus sign means.
Oh, of course. Those are only the last 2 numbers. The empty mailbox must indicate the numbers that come before them.
But what's the missing letters have to do with numbers? Why don't we move on and come back to that part later?
Yes, why don't we?
Fine by me.
What is that next drawing anyhow?
Seems obvious to me. It's a sailor lying in the sun.
No, I mean hanging down by his feet.
Looks like a squashed football.
Or a badly drawn Valentine heart.
Oh, I think it's a kidney.
You're all wrong. It's a bean. I'm a cook. Trust me.
Yeah, I think she's right.
A navy bean. It has to be. Otherwise, why'd you wear that sailor?
No, it's too flat for that. More like a lima bean.
Hold it. I don't think it's the kind of bean at all. I think it simply means bean. That would make the phrase read, you should also know that I have
Then
bean.
is bean what? Bean giving a tanning by a sailor?
Why don't we get back to that part later, too?
Yeah, the next one's really tricky.
The speed limit sign? It's still hard to figure. 0, 0 miles per hour. It's simple enough to me.
Wait, 2 zeros. Surely 0 miles an hour would mean the same thing.
Yeah, that double zero must be significant somehow.
Roulette. That's the only thing I know of that uses a double zero.
Do you suppose it refers to Las Vegas?
Might also be Monte Carlo.
Or even Atlantic City.
Which means it probably doesn't refer to any of them. A clue that vague wouldn't be playing fair.
Why don't we get on to the last sketch? So then we can go back over everything.
Let's see, there's a diamond marked AZ and another diamond marked BC. And that second one is stuck at that I.
Diamond? Diamond and I? Old diamond and I?
Gem, not diamond. It's a horoscope sign. Gem in eye.
Josiah wasn't into horoscopes. Was he?
No, of course he wasn't.
But why 2 diamonds?
Older! The first diamond's just a setup to show us one that's of recent age, so we know the second one means older.
Of course. So this next part reads, an older Gemini in this very house. Kindly see to, at least the C and 2 seem to be as simple as that. Kindly see to the usual legalities inherent in such instances.
But in what instances?
Listen, as the lawyer in the group, that legalities part must somehow refer to me. Don't you agree?
That would seem to make sense.
Which way does that leave us?
Kissy, what have you got so far?
Not too much, I'm afraid, but here it is, more or less. My friend, please bear with me.
I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in reading. Therefore, I've decided to leave my vast fortune to anyone, friends, relatives, or strangers, who can code this, my last will and testament.
What? Are you saying there aren't going to be any specific bequests? It certainly seems so. But that's not
It
fair!
was Uncle Josiah's money, Aunt Eloise. He should be able to dispose of it in any way he wanted.
That's easy for you to say. He's already set up trust funds for you and Kirsten and Theodosia.
Look, you can fight it out later about the terms of the will. Let's try to see what those terms are first, shall we?
Yeah, go ahead, Kissy.
Okay, but here's where it gets kind of murky. You will find a large sum of perforated hot dogs in a safe deposit box in Lucerne, the number of which is first initially the empty mailbox of this group plus 82. Good luck to you all, signed Josiah Travers. P.S. You should also know that I have been that sailor in the sun by 00 miles per hour, an older Gemini in this very house. Kindly see to the usual legalities inherent in such instances. Then his initials after the P.S., and that's it.
Gemini? Gemini. Now, I wonder if...
Look, why don't we get the rest of those drawings solved before we try to figure anything else out, okay?
Maybe we should break for dinner and come back to it.
I thought you had a big nap on the way over.
Yeah, but the drinking's been giving me an appetite.
Come along, Pippi. You can help me slice the roast.
Sure thing.
Dining room is this way.
I still think the whole thing is definitely unfair.
No, Eloise, we don't know that. Not yet. Not until the entire will is figured out.
I wish I could figure out that empty mailbox thing.
Those sprinklers with the holes in it that are driving me nuts.
Missing letters. First missing letters. First initially missing.
Shouldn't we be asking around which one of the group is a Gemini?
But what would a person's birthday have to do with anything?
Maybe it would become clear once we knew who it was.
Evil! There is evil here. I can feel it. It's getting closer.
Is she kidding?
Don't scoff, Dan. Zeta has some very powerful gifts.
Look, puzzling is bad enough. Let's not move on to spooky.
There's kind of an eerie feeling in the air. You change that. Mormons, why don't you put on some records?
As you wish, Lieutenant Vincent.
Initials! First initials! That's why Josiah used both words. I think it even explains you, Dan.
What do you mean?
You said you'd never met Josiah, and yet he invited you here tonight after he checked the names of all the people on your detective staff. It must be because your name begins with a D. What other reason could there be?
But why send for a detective at all?
Because of evil! I knew there was something in the air. I think that somewhere in that will is a clue to Josiah's murderer.
Yeah, if I wish that didn't make sense.
Those letters are initials. What are they? Let's see, taking them alphabetically.
I'd better put them down on paper.
Good idea.
But which initial? I mean, mine, Buzzy's, and Dan's are the same, first or last.
No, Josiah said first initially. It must be the first name.
Hold on, I've nearly got it. How's this? Addie, Buzzy, Connie, Dan, Eloise, Flame, then there's no G, H, or I, then Jerry, myself, Kissy, Lucretia, then we skip to Pippi, another skip to Theodosia, and we end with Zeta.
Well, wait. That's only 12 names. We left somebody out.
But it seems to be complete. Who did we?
Morvins.
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, I meant to stop at his name and ask him, but I was so busy alphabetizing that I forgot.
Forgot to ask him what?
His first name, of course.
Begging your pardon, ma'am, but Marvin's is my first name.
Isn't that unusual? I mean, don't butlers usually go by last names?
That is so, Mr. Delvin. But Master Josiah was always most insistent about calling me by my first name. He said something about, if I wanted to be mentioned in his will.
The will. Hey, the names really must be a clue.
And what is your last name, Morvins?
Why, it's...
What happened? Oh my God! There's a switch by the door over here, if I can find it. There it is, somewhere. Over here.
Turn on the lights, Buzzy!
I can't find it.
Turn the freaking lights on!
There. Oh my God! It's Deb!
I think he's dead!
No one's anywhere near him.
Then why would anybody want to kill Morvins?
Who could do such a
And
thing?
how did they do it?
Yes, from whence did the hand of evil descend?
Well, I'm afraid we all know one thing's for sure.
What?
Butler didn't do it.
Pippi, aren't you finished yet? I need a hand with the dishes.
Sorry, Lou, those chalk marks don't come up very easily.
Why do the police always draw chalk marks around the body?
So they can photograph the spot, I think, and know where it was.
Why not just photograph the body?
They did photograph the body.
Then why bother with the chalk marks at all?
Maybe they just like making messes.
I wonder what's keeping Dan. He promised he'd be right back.
Probably paperwork. Policemen spend most of their time doing paperwork.
We should count ourselves lucky we had a police detective on the scene at the time the murder occurred. A story of how it happened would have sounded fantastic.
Yeah, but what gets me is just how did it happen?
What do you mean, Buzzy?
Seems simple enough to me.
Me too. The lights went out and somebody stabbed them.
Yeah, but those lights went out more than 5 seconds. How can anybody get to him, do the deed, and then get away in such a short time?
Perhaps the killer was wearing track shoes.
It really is baffling, though, Addie.
Sometimes one sense of time gets distorted under stress. The actual interval of darkness may have been much longer. In fact, it would almost have to be, seeing as our killer obviously did arrive, do the poor man in and depart without anyone seeing him. Or her.
I wish you wouldn't call him our killer, Addie. It makes me feel like I'm on his waiting list.
Nonsense. Why would the killer want to go after you?
Why did he want to go after Marvin's?
Well, wait now. Morvis was just about to tell us something when he got it. Something that could betray his killer.
But Buzzy, the killer wasn't a killer yet.
We can't know that. I mean, somebody killed your Uncle Josiah.
But if Marvin's knew, why didn't he tell the police?
Perhaps he didn't realize what he knew. That is, didn't realize it had any connection with Josiah's murder unless...
Until what?
Who knows? Whatever he was about to say, it died when he did. I certainly can't imagine what he was planning to tell us.
We don't have to imagine, Addie. We know.
We do?
He was about to tell us his last name.
What significance could his name have?
If we knew that, we might be able to expose our killer.
Be a killer, please.
Sorry.
Oh, what's keeping Dan anyhow?
What's with you and Dan, Flame? You two weren't into more than aerobics, were you?
Of course not. That is, well, we did go out to dinner a few times after class.
Didn't that defeat the purpose of your exercise?
Aerobics always gives me an appetite.
But why are you so concerned about Dan's return, Flame?
Because I want to go home, and Dan said none of us were to go anywhere until he got back. Is that so unreasonable?
I hope he's not going to question us. I get nervous enough taking pop quizzes in the newspaper.
An innocent person has nothing to fear, Connie.
Have you strolled through Central Park lately?
I mean from the police.
What do the station houses do with all those rubber hoses anyway? You know, if he sits that way much longer, a couple of Egyptians are going to tiptoe in and clap him into a mummy cage.
You're not mock what you do not understand, Dr. Burdett.
But Zita, what are you meditating about anyhow?
I'm trying to find the focal point of the evil aura in this house.
Any luck?
Not so far, but there is something. A flicker. A glimmering.
But would it hold up in a court of law?
The law. Bah! It knows nothing of the infinite, of the horrible emanations that pure evil gives off. Only I can sense such things.
But if the law won't believe you, what good does it do?
Once I know who the killer is, I can inform the authorities and they can pinpoint their investigation onto that person.
But what that doesn't help. I mean, if the investigation can't turn up anything illegal about the person, all you've done is let a killer know that you're onto him.
And that's not what I call very bright.
Ha! If the law will do nothing, then I will do something.
Whoa, that could be mighty dangerous.
Stalking a former killer?
I think that I suck. I'm not half this stuff. No killer, no matter how strong-willed, can resist the full brunt of my powers.
Oh, come on, Vizita. I don't believe it's sorcery.
You are an idiot. Sorry, return to normal.
Where am I? Well, what happened? What did he
Holy
do?
Toledo, Zita, what the hell did you do to
Yeah,
him?
I told you Zita had strange powers.
This is fascinating. Oh, Zita, you must come and do your stuff for my kindergarten class.
Really, Miss Fondue, my powers are not a toy.
I only thought that...
Well, my dear, what I'm trying to say is, well, I don't do conjuring tricks. My powers are very real. I'm afraid the children might become horribly terrified by demonstration.
Then you don't know kids very well, Zita. They're probably the most bloodthirsty little, well, let's say that blood and gore are, to borrow from the Sound of Music. Some of their favorite things.
Anything, my dears?
Buzzy just got an accidental dose of Zita's whammy power.
Otherwise, Dogsville all the way. How's Eloise?
Finally asleep. Luckily, I had some sedatives in the medicine cabinet. The poor dear was almost hysterical about Marvin's murder.
I wasn't exactly the picture of serenity myself. I mean, here we are casually chatting, and all at once, darkness, screaming, and the lights come up on an unexpected corpse.
Has anyone figured out what happened exactly?
That's what we were trying to do just before that whammy. Frankly, I'm baffled. There's no way a killer could have come and gone in that short space of a time. But it happened.
Well, at least we know who didn't do it.
What do you mean, dear?
Well, it wasn't anyone in the bunch of us over by the desk.
You can't be certain of that, Kissy. In the darkness, well,
Listen, even Olympic medals could have galloped across the entire room, killed Marvin, and galloped all the way back before Buzzy turned the lights on again. For one thing, he'd have heard.
That's right. We didn't hear a thing. Not even a footstep during the time the lights were out.
We ladies were screaming pretty loudly.
Yeah, but running footsteps are an entirely different kind of noise. You don't just hear them, you feel them through your feet. And I'll swear there wasn't so much as a rustle of a sound like that.
Really now, how it was done is less relevant than the fact that it was done. And until we know by whom, the nightmare goes on.
It's no wonder poor Eloise is upset.
I wish the murder was all she was upset about.
What else is there?
I'm afraid she was even more disturbed about Jerry Delvin.
About
I
me?
knew we should have told her about the engagement.
My dear, it has nothing to do with your engagement to Jerry. It has to do with, rather, with his line of work.
That's not fair. Solar K doesn't make the big bucks suitable for marriage into the social register,
I'm
but...
afraid you're all missing my point.
You mean Eloise's point, don't you, dear?
I'm not...
Just what are you getting at, Miss Travers?
After all, Jerry, you are a puzzle expert. And the unusual form of Josiah's will does require specialized knowledge to interpret.
And?
Eloise wondered, and got me wondering as well. How can I put this down?
If you're trying to spare my feelings, it's a bit too late.
Actually, it was Connie's feelings I was concerned about.
What are you trying to say?
Just this. How do we know we can trust Jerry's interpretation of the will?
I never thought of that. How do we know you're not hoaxing the lot of us, sir?
You're being ridiculous. Why should I?
Josiah left a lot of money. Why shouldn't he?
Listen, if Jerry gave us the wrong number of the safety deposit box in Lucerne, we know the moment we tried to look it up.
There are other things in that will, Dr. Burdett, such as the identity of Josiah's murderer.
What are you talking about?
A clever man, a man like Josiah, suspecting he's about to be killed, would find some way of leaving a message. I'd rather think the postscript is a part containing the vital information.
Honestly, dear, you can't expect us to believe that Uncle was killed by a
Or a speed limit sign, for that matter.
But what about the Gemini? I seem to remember Marvin's getting very bemused the moment that part was
But I
solved.
already told you Josiah wasn't into horoscopes.
Then what if it means something else?
Like a real diamond in somebody's eye?
No, what I meant was...
I thought you said you had Lisa dated!
With the killer on the loose, how can anyone get to sleep?
Good, they're gone. I'm getting out of here.
But the police, the detective said no one was to leave.
If you have any brains, you'll leave too. A killer can only be tried once.
But
What's another murder, more or less?
But the police, they'll go after you, and they'll find you, and they'll...
By the time they even know I'm gone, I'll already be on a plane to Switzerland.
Ooh, you figured out the will?
Of course I have. All of it, including the name of the killer. Now listen, Pippi. Well, you and I have been good friends a long time, and if anything should happen to me, well, I want you to have this. If anything should go wrong, if only as a memento. Certainly can't be worth very much.
Lou, don't talk like that. Don't go, please. If you know who the killer is, you should tell somebody.
After I collect those Swiss francs, the two of us.
What Swiss francs?
Those hot dogs with the holes in them? What else could they mean? Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm in a hurry. And listen, Pippi, not a word about this to anyone. If the killer thinks you might know what I know, you'd be in terrible danger.
But are you sure you figured out the number of the safety deposit box correctly?
Easy as pie. Just list all the first names alphabetically and add up the totals of the missing letters of the alphabet, group by group. Careful, honey, I've got to go.
Lou, please, tell me who the killer is. At least I'll know who to steer
But
clear
I don't
of.
have time to explain how I figured out that part.
Get that part. Just give me the name. It's a detective, back already.
He mustn't know I've gone. Not a word to anyone. I'll sneak out of here as soon as there's nobody around.
But what if he has to hang up his coat?
Pippi, why aren't you getting the door?
Sorry, ma'am.
A lot of information to go over. Where's Miss Ainsley? I've on book character. And Miss Travers.
Here, sir, let me hand this
No,
over.
Pippi, there's no need to.
Well, then I'll hang it on the back of the chair, if that's all right.
That's fine, whatever.
This is going to take very long, Lieutenant. The sooner I'm safe home in my own bed, the happier I'll be.
Well, as long as I get some truthful answers. Joel, please find seats.
In answer to your earlier question, Lieutenant, Theo and Zita are saying to Eloise upstairs. She had a rather bad scare, and when she screamed, we all ran to her. That's where we were returning from when you arrived.
Scare? What sort of scare?
It was nothing, really. Aunt Eloise woke up in a semi-dark room, and there was a lounging robe thrown carelessly over the chair beside the bed.
It did rather look like a hunchback dwarf, though. That's what Eloise thought it was anyhow.
I'm sure the other two will be down as soon as they've gotten Eloise back to sleep.
Let's get what I have to say. I didn't think to them or to this household either.
Well, then what does it have to do with the will?
That's just what I hope to find out. For starters, the name isn't really Buzzy, is it?
Well, no, of course not. It's a nickname. I just happen to prefer it to my own name. No crime in that.
What is your own name, Buzzy?
Benjamin Bradford Burdette.
It certainly doesn't suit you.
That's why I never use it.
Quite a monogram it gave you. Oh, B.
That's how I got the nickname Buzzy.
Dan, this is all fine and dandy, but why bother with nitpicking little details like that?
You keep forgetting, Jared. The Wilson goes by the exact first names of everyone here.
Oh, dear, that's right.
But Buzzy's real name doesn't change a thing. It still begins with a B. Same goes for my own name. Kirsten and Kissy don't change a little bit either.
Oh, wait a minute. What a dope I've been.
Yes, you have, and I'm getting to that. First, they can maintain your kindergarten teacher, Miss Fondue.
I guess not. It doesn't matter much anymore, does it?
Who are you then?
Oh, she's Flame Fondue, all right. Only she's a private detective hired by Mr. Josiah Travers 2 months ago.
Okay, and what of it?
You mind telling us why you were hired?
Normally, I would mind client's confidentiality and all that, but if telling what I know might help solve my client's murder, then I'm sure Josie wouldn't mind my providing any information I can.
And why were you hired exactly?
Josiah suspected someone of this household on planning to kill him. He didn't know or wouldn't say who that person was. He hired me to investigate the lot of them, family and servants, to see if my investigation matched his. Only he wouldn't tell me what he knew or suspected until my investigation was over. And before that happened, well, you know what happened to him.
But Flame, what did you find out?
A certain party was greatly in debt. Gambling debts is my guess. And the only way that person could get any money, especially with a potential jail sentence looming overhead, was if Josie should die. It's no wonder he was so worried about it.
I mean, the inheritance would cover the gambling debts.
That's what I did think until tonight. But then, seeing the way the will's constructed, I mean, anyone could get that money if they could break the coding. It just doesn't make any sense.
So you came here regardless under false pretenses?
I wouldn't talk false pretenses if I were you.
You mean he's not a policeman?
That I don't know. I do know he's not Dan Denton.
How do you know?
For one thing, I wasn't kidding about that aerobics class. I know Dan Denton quite well. And for another, the real Dan Denton was a victim of a hit-and-run driver at about 6 o'clock this evening before we all started arriving here.
You mean he's dead?
Fortunately, no. He suffered a lot of bruises and contusions and in the hospital a few days. I being his partner for the best you can in his place. It's going to count on Flame knowing Dan, of course.
So that's why you acted so surprised when you heard Dan was coming.
Naturally, I'd just been talking to him in his hospital room a half hour before I arrived here.
Well, thanks for not blowing my cover.
It's not professionally. It wasn't professional courtesy by a long shot. For all I knew, you were the hit-and-run driver. I just wanted to see what you were up to before I blew the whistle.
Wait a minute. How do we know he's what he says? He could still be a criminal pretending to be Dan's partner.
That's easy, Pippi. When the police got here to investigate the death of Marvin's, they all knew him. They left him in charge of the case. They hardly would have done that with an imposter.
If those really were the police?
Oh, stop it, Buzzy. This case is complicating enough already.
Sorry, but say now, Mr. Policeman, what is your name?
David Fresco, working on a homicide, the same as Dan.
Oh, good. The initial's still the same then.
Pippi, it wouldn't matter even if it weren't. Josiah had invited Dan Denton to be present tonight, so it's his initial we should go by, no matter what initial Lieutenant Fesco has.
Oh yes, I see. So everything's all right then.
Which brings us back to Jerry.
Don't rub it in. I've been a real idiot.
What is Lieutenant Fesco talking about?
Who is Lieutenant Fesco?
Oh, dear. Do we have to go through all that again?
Here, I can give you two a quick update.
Well, I wish you would.
While you were gone, it turns out that Flame is actually a private detective hired by Josiah before his death. And the real Dan Denton is in the hospital. And this is his partner, Dave Fesco.
This is as bad as missing an installment on a soap opera. Maybe for a few minutes, it's almost impossible to catch up the storyline.
Oh, nonsense, Zita. I thought Buzzy summed things up quite nicely.
Except for the fact that Lieutenant Fesco was just about to accuse Jerry of something when you walked in.
Then Eloise was right.
Right about what?
It's nothing. Really nothing.
Well, I'd like to hear about it anyhow, if you don't mind.
Hell. It's just that Eloise, with fairly good reason, now that I've had time to think it over, thought that I, as a puzzle expert, might be deliberately misinterpreting the decoding of Josiah's will to get all the money for myself.
Have you been?
Hardly. I mean, we don't even know if there is any money involved.
But what about the Swiss francs?
What Swiss francs?
Those hot dogs. Lou figured it out hours ago.
Swiss francs, of course. We've been
Plain
idiots.
as day once you figure it out, isn't it?
Yes, it really is. That's why Eloise is concerned about your unfounded. Each club is closed so far. It's perfectly obvious what the answer is. How could Jerry be calling it hanky-panky about it?
But just moments ago, you implied that Jerry was up to hanky-panky.
Not hanky-panky. Plain, short-sighted stupidity.
That's my boy.
And what did my dim-witted buddy do, Lieutenant?
The same thing you did, Benjamin Bradford Burdette.
Who?
That's Buzzy's real name, Mrs. Travers.
His initials are 3 B's. That's why they call him Buzzy.
Say, that's cute.
I always thought so.
But what did Mr. Delvin do?
He simply went by his nickname instead of his actual name. Shall I tell him or will you?
My real first name is Gerald.
What does it possibly matter what his...
So the initial's different. Lou's got the wrong number.
Say, where's Lucretia anyhow?
Oh no, she's probably on her way to Switzerland right now, and there's nothing we can do to stop
But
her.
we've got to stop her.
Aha! Then you are interested in the money.
Well, of course I am. Wouldn't you be? What I meant was, if she's figured out the entire will, then she must know who killed Josiah.
I never thought of that.
Fine detective you are.
I'll get ADD put on her immediately. I'll tell her all the airports.
Wait a minute. You don't have to do that. She hasn't left the house.
Then where is she?
You've all got to understand. Lou and I made a pact out in the kitchen when we were washing up the dinner dishes. We've been good friends for a long time, and, well, we decided that if one of us could break the code and know how to get the inheritance, the one who did so would split with the other one 50-50.
But why should you?
Because two heads are better than one.
Of course, if neither one of you had to worry about losing out on the inheritance entirely, you could pool your ideas and get to the solution faster.
Okay, well, let's not get sidetracked. Where is she?
You've all got to understand. I would never betray a friend except, well, I don't want to be left in the house with a killer on the loose.
Do you know who the killer is?
No, Lou was about to tell me when you rang the doorbell, so she hid in the closet.
So that's why you were so anxious to hang up Dave's coat for him.
I couldn't let him go in there, could I?
Makes sense to me.
I'm sorry, Lou. I just had to tell them.
Here, let's get over into the armchair.
There's nobody in here.
There's gotta be.
Unless there's some other way out of there.
You'd be safe, there better be.
Lieutenant Festo, you surely don't think Pippi killed Lucretia?
That's crazy. It took me and Buzzy both to get her off that hook.
Pippi could never have done it alone.
And if she had done it, she would not be fool enough to lead us right to the body, would she?
She could have, I guess. I mean, we'd find the body sooner or later.
But if we found it later, we never would have connected with her, Dave.
That makes sense, Lieutenant. You must admit.
Well, I guess, I mean, the thing certainly was the real thing. I mean, no one's big turning that pale.
Well, I'm afraid whoever did this to Lucretia did a good job of it.
She's dead?
Afraid so.
And the identity of the murderer died in the dark.
Not necessarily. One more bit of information I gathered, and I expect a spotlight on the killer.
What information?
Hurry, Lieutenant, before someone gets rid of you.
That's the most sensible idea I've heard all night.
Tell us.
So tantalize us. Come on, Dave, spill it.
Don't keep it to yourself. It's dangerous.
I will, just as soon as I can get a word in edgewise.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, that's more like it. The two major clues are the stop sign here and the whole Gemini thing.
Don't give us hints, give us names.
It's Addie Sheridan.
What? You're out of your mind.
Oh, Addie, how could you? Poor old Uncle Josiah, and Marvin's, and Lucretia?
Damn it, Theo, use your head. I couldn't have killed Lucretia. If she ducked into the closet when the doorbell rang as Pippi asserts, you must all recall that I was just coming down the stairs with you, and I haven't left the room since.
That's right. She was with us on the stairs.
I'm sure she hasn't left the room.
Not without one of us noticing, that's for sure.
But it has to be Addie.
Why?
Exactly the coding refers.
Pippi, it's all right.
Listen, Joe, we can't just let her lie here like that.
You're right. Let's get her on her bed, in her room.
Wait. It's illegal to move a body before the police arrive.
You are the police, Dave.
And she's been moved already. Well, we couldn't just leave her hanging on the door.
And what's the point of keeping her here, Lieutenant?
Okay, fine. Put her in her bedroom.
It's right down the hall in back of the kitchen.
Thanks.
Pippi, dear, it's all right. Please, sit down. You've had a terrible shock.
No, I'm all right now. It was just the shock, seeing her on the closet door, and then when I came...
Oh, Addie, don't stand there like a lump. Get her a brandy. Never mind, I'll get it. You stay there in the corner, Addie, where we can all keep an eye on you.
I thought I'd already demonstrated that I couldn't have done it.
Oh, she was with us on the stairs when Dave arrived playing.
Yes, but Dave sounded so certain.
I don't see how I could be wrong about it. Except, if she was coming down the stairs just as Lucretia went to the closet, then I'm all mixed up.
Why don't you tell us what you discovered?
You mean what you thought you discovered?
Okay, I looked back on this little Gemini thing that rusted a little reaction on Marvin's. So I had a city records clerk check back for the past 40 to 50 years about a certain set of twins being born.
Twins, of course! That's what the Gemini means. The twins!
But how could you? I mean, there must be twins born at least once a week in a city as large as New York.
But not with one of them named Addie Sheridan.
But Dave, what made you search for her name?
Yeah.
Well, you see the stop sign here, 0 miles per hour? They're not zeros at all, they're O's, and it spells O-O-M-P-H.
And Sheridan!
yes.
What are you talking about? It was before your time, dear. She used to be known as the oomph gal, like Clara Bow is the it girl.
Wait, I don't get it. What does oomph mean?
Well, the publicity people at Warner Brothers, they said it was a sort of sound that men would grunt when Miss Sheridan appeared on the screen.
Oh, hey, that's neat. So the latter part of the will reads, I have been something by Sheridan.
A Gemini in this very house, of course. No wonder Josiah did the will in code. If we'd be able to see Addie's name, Addie would never let us see the will at all.
She had it, of course, but she couldn't find the money on her own.
Really, Lieutenant, I should explain
Wait a
to
minute.
you.
Lieutenant, you said the code pointed to a killer. Where does it say anything about a killing?
That was the real tuckety crap. Look back at all words relating to a sailor lying in the sun. These sailors, a salt, a seaman, a tar, a swabby. And the latter part, wow. Reddening, browning, baking, broiling. The list goes on and on.
But what did you finally settle on?
Okay, the sailor was a tar and he was getting himself a tan.
And that makes me a murderer? It doesn't even make sense.
Not unless you stop to think about it, where one most often sees a tar in.
On a Scotsman's kill, of course.
Of course what? I can't make head nor tails of it.
That's it. See, that's got to be it. You should also know that it was killed by Sheridan.
But you are forgetting one vital additional clue in the will.
You saying you play someone else as the murderer?
Precisely. The only problem is there's no way that other person could be the murderer.
What other person, Addie?
My twin brother, Marvin's.
What?
Oh my God! Cover up. Get on the couch, quick.
Give her some ears. There, and crowd her.
I'm so confused.
Somebody tried to kill me.
What?
Eloise, you must be delirious.
There was no one anywhere near Pippi.
Stop treating me like a mental defective. I know what I saw.
What exactly did you see?
A hand with a glove and a dagger thrusting toward Pippi's back.
But that's impossible. No one was anywhere near me.
Whose hand, Eloise?
I'm sorry, but from the foot of the stairs, with the closet jutting out like that, I couldn't see the actual person, just his hand and his arm.
But Pippi was all alone by the phonograph.
Just like Marvin's was before the lights went out.
Jared, are you trying to say that Eloise did see something?
With all that's been going on here tonight, nothing would surprise me anymore.
Of course I saw somebody. I only wish I could have seen her son. What do you mean, all that's been going on around here? You don't mean something else has happened? Besides Marvin's murder?
No, you mustn't overexcite yourself, dear. Why don't you go back up to bed and have
No
a nice...
way! I had barely gotten to sleep last time when I heard all of you screaming down here. That's what brought me downstairs. I heard screaming and shouting and a lot of muffled murmuring. I couldn't stand not knowing what happened. Just what did happen.
Ah, that must have been just about the...
Buzzard, please! Oh, Theo, will you stop fluttering around me like a mother hen? Found what, Buzzy?
Your cook, Lucretia,
Dead?
as a mackerel.
But why would anyone want to murder the cook?
Well, dinner wasn't that bad.
She said she knew who the murderer was.
Oh, who did she say it was?
She didn't.
And now, poor dear, she'll never be able to.
We think we know who the killer is.
We do? Since when?
Oh, that's right. You two weren't in the room when we found out.
Found out what?
If we're not being too nosy.
Dave found out that Marvin's is actually Addie's twin brother. That's what the Gemini means. And that sailor is a tar and he's getting a tan.
And a tartan is on a Scotsman's kill, and kill is a pun on the word killed.
And Aunt Sheridan was known as the oomph gal.
What the hell is this, a murder investigation or trivial pursuit?
That's what the speed limit sign meant, Buzzy. Not 00, but double O. And OOMPH spells oomph.
And Zita remembered that's what they used to call Aunt Sheridan.
So did city records clerk check on a certain set of Sheridan twins being born?
Hold it. My head is starting to spin. Are you saying that Addie did do it?
They're all trying to, but they're forgetting one vital additional piece of Josiah's coded message. It says that the older Gemini is the one responsible for the murder, and if you did your checking in depth, Lieutenant, you'd see I am the younger twin.
But I can't be mistaken. It says right here, Marvin Sheridan was born October 31st.
Damn it, we know Marvin was born on Halloween. You already told us that.
So his twin must have been born on the same date.
I suspected you were real bright.
But the time, Dave, the time of the births?
Okay, Marvin Sheridan was born at 1:05 a.m. that Sunday.
That is correct, Lieutenant Fesco. Now read the next part.
And Addie Sheridan was born at 1:50 a.m.?
But that makes Addie 45 minutes younger than Marvin.
That's crazy. I mean, if Addie is the younger twin,
That's exactly what I tried to tell you all earlier. It means the murderer named in Josiah's will is my twin brother, Marvin's.
But Marvin's was killed because he knew the identity of the murderer.
But we can't know that.
But what other reason could there be?
This is insane. You were saying that Marvin's is the murderer according to the will, and that he was killed before he could identify the murderer. I simply cannot say how it could have been both.
Murderer and murder victim? Neither can I.
Unless his conscience tormented him until he...
Killed himself?
Theo, nobody commits suicide by stabbing themselves in the middle of their own back.
Even if he wanted to. I don't see how he could.
I don't suppose your brother Moonlight has a contortion.
Buzzy, Marvin's had enough trouble walking across the room, let alone plunging a dagger into his own back.
Yeah, but if we all keep on insisting that he didn't do it.
Then one of us did it.
Which means that Josiah's accusation is incorrect.
Which means the rest of the will could be incorrect, too. CERN?
Well, there's only one way to find out. You figure out those numbers, you find out there is such a box. Two.
Dr. Burdett, are you sure it was strangulation?
I mean, that rope around her neck wasn't helping her any.
But you're not absolutely certain.
Hell, Dave, it could be some rare South American poison, sure. But why would the killer even bother? Rope around the windpipe does the trick quite nicely.
Marty? Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, it seems to be. We'll let the medical examiner find out for certain. How long take you guys to get here? All right, see you then. Bye. Said about 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, good. Leaves us just enough time to pretty up before they start grilling us again.
Unless we decide to play charades.
How can you all be so nonchalant about it?
Oh, we're not, really, honey. It's just the mind's way of giving out protection so we don't go bananas. It's called post-shock syndrome.
It's just easier to get a bit giddy than to face up to the horror of it, I guess.
It beats running in circles and screaming any day.
I think I'd prefer hysterics to dumb jokes.
Not me. I've had all hysterics tonight that I want in a lifetime.
Amen to that.
Has anybody figured out those numbers yet?
There doesn't seem to be any need to. I mean, you're not being allowed to leave the neighborhood, let alone sail across the Atlantic.
Hey, buddy, don't forget that restriction includes you, too.
How do you mean?
Being on the homicide squad doesn't absolve you as a suspect, Dave.
Considering the salaries they pay policemen, a large sum of Swiss francs sounds mighty tempting.
That's true enough, I guess, but I didn't have an opportunity to commit either of the two murders.
For that matter, none of us did. But 2 murders have been done.
Hell, we may as well figure out those numbers while we're waiting.
I guess it'd be nice to read the entire will at that.
Shouldn't you be refraining from drinking on duty?
After 2 murders in one night, even the police commissioner wouldn't stay totally
Don't
sober.
forget the attempted murder on Pippi.
Of course, we have only Eloise's testimony that there was an attempt on Pippi's life.
How dare you, Addie? I may not be a spring chicken, but I'm far from senile. I saw what I saw, and it's not my fault no one else saw it.
Eloise, dear, no one suggesting you were lying. Just mistaken.
Okay, here's a magic number that can make all our dreams come true.
Let's have it then, and I'll race you all to the airport.
Do you want just the numbers or the whole calculation?
Might as well do the whole thing in case there's a mistake or something. Maybe someone will notice.
Fair enough. Taking us all alphabetically, it goes like this. Addie, Buzzy, Connie, Dan, Eloise, Flame. Then we skip G, H, and I.
Wait,
And,
don't forget that Jerry is actually Gerald.
oh, it doesn't matter anyway. I gotta give old Josiah credit. He must have taken that into account when he coded the thing. Which name Jerry would be going by? You see, the number itself is 3, which means the missing letters till the next name are G, H, and I. But if we go by Jerry, or Gerald, perhaps, we drop the upcoming J and the letters become H, I, J, you see?
All right, we understand. Just get on with it.
Okay. Next group of names are Kissy, Lucretia, and Marvin. Then we skip N-O, giving 2 as the next digit. And we move on to Pippi. Then we skip Q, R, and S, giving 3 as the next. Then comes Theodosia. Then comes U, V, W, X, and Y, giving 5 as the next. And we wrap up the alphabet with Zeta.
3, 2, 3, 5, and... What were those last 2?
A2, as in A2 Brute, minus the brew and the tay.
Just for clarification, let's say the entire will reads the way Josiah intended it to be read after the code.
My friends, please bear with me. I belong to a club whose members enjoy dabbling in rebuses. Therefore, I have decided to leave my vast fortune to anyone, friend, relative, or stranger, who can decode this, my last will and testament.
You will find a large sum of Swiss francs in a safety deposit box in Lucerne, the numbers of which are first initially the missing letters of this group.
3, 2, 3, 5.
Plus
A2.
Good luck to you all. Signed, Josiah Travers.
P.S. You should also know that I have been killed by Sheridan, an older twin in this very house.
Kindly see to the usual legalities in such instances. I was wrong about that part applying to me as a lawyer. Actually, it applies to you, Lieutenant.
The usual legalities, being a roundabout way of saying call the cop.
Nicely put, Pippi.
So, seriously now, what's our next move?
What do you mean?
Well, Say the cops arrive, take Lucretia's body away, and sooner or later the case is declared unsolvable or something. I mean, we all get off the hook regarding having to stay in New York City.
Yes.
Was Kissy right a while ago? I mean, do we all race to the airport or what?
You know, it does seem odd the more I think about it. I mean, much as Josiah enjoyed his constant dabbling into puzzles, I somehow can't see him really unleashing a group of frantic travelers in a neck-and-neck gallop to Switzerland.
It wouldn't be like Josiah, no. Of course, Connie, you and I and Kissy have our trust funds. But would he do that to the others?
You're right. Like Aunt Eloise, for instance. I know he liked her. She should get some kind of inheritance.
And what about the servants? Marvin's had given years of loyal service. And Pippi and Lucretia are in consideration, too.
And what about Addie's legal fees? I mean, isn't a lawyer entitled to a certain percentage of the estate? But, well, handling matters for the deceased, it doesn't seem right somehow for Josiah to...
Stiff her?
Yes, thank you, Buzzy. That's exactly what I meant.
What you're all saying is that the terms of the will are not characteristic of Joseph. I'd have to agree. I didn't know the man very long, of course, but, well, I just didn't like him.
But where does that leave us? I mean, the chart is certainly intended to mean something, isn't it?
Wait, you're not saying, oh God, it couldn't be that we somehow interpreted the will all wrong. No.
Brings us back to Jerry again.
Aw, now wait a minute. I swear that... Of course I don't know for an absolute certainty that my various solutions are correct. Don't forget that I didn't decode everything in that will.
Jerry's right. While he and I were stashing poor Lucretia in her bedroom, you folks had a field day romping through the clues. How do we know we can trust the rest of you?
But if the will's been misinterpreted, no matter who made the errors, what possible alternative interpretation could there be?
It's me where we could have gone wrong.
Well, let's see now. I mean, some of this will is so simple. I mean, certain interpretations are blatantly obvious, like that last will and testament bit. Why don't we just take the parts that we know and just, throw them away?
Yes.
And concentrate on the parts where a wide variety of interpretations can be.
That's not bad thinking, Zita. Not bad at all.
I agree. Let's take it from the top.
Well, it seems to me that the first few lines seem almost childishly simple. I mean, the bear, the oblongs, the playing card, arms and legs, buses. Any arguments there?
No. And that therefore sign must mean that.
Actually, everything up through the last will and testament seems unarguably correct.
But that's where things start getting sticky. I mean, do those hot dogs mean Swiss francs? Is that vibrating base capable of meaning nothing but Lucerne?
And don't forget the older Gemini bit mentioned further on. We know it can't be right, seeing as Marvin's was older by 45 minutes.
Don't skip around like that. Let's stick to one thing at a time, Addie. Now, that trembling bit of crockery,
But I'm really
for
concerned
instance-
about the twin thing, Jerry.
But not so much concerned about the twin, as I recall.
Yes, that's odd, now that you mention it, Flame.
Yes, I mean, if my twin brother had been murdered, I'd have been a basket case for weeks.
Eloise, you're always a basket case. I'm not the emotional type. I keep my sorrow inside, deep and hidden.
Just where were you when your brother was murdered, Addie?
Why, I left the room much earlier. With you and Eloise. We were headed for the dining room, remember?
But you stepped through the bathroom in the hall, Addie, and we went on without you.
Yes, and it's odd now that I think of it. When I had arrived, you had just gone to comb your hair or something. It seems strange you'd go back there so soon afterwards.
This is ridiculous. I killed no one. I wasn't even in the room.
That's true, but...
What is it, Kissy?
Have you thought of something?
Sort of.
What, for Pete's sake? The last two people who held information back won't ever be talking again.
But Jerry, it's not information. It's sort of a nutty notion.
Oh, well, whatever it is, spill it, and quickly.
Yes, please, the lights go out far too easily in this house.
Okay, here it is, for what it's worth. It suddenly struck me as odd that for each murder, it wasn't the same people who couldn't have done it.
Could you run that past me again? I must have missed something.
I just sort of got the creepy feeling that maybe more than one person was in on it.
Kissy, what are you saying?
Well, when Marvin's was killed, he was far away from any of us in the room. Dave was at the bar, the rest of us over by the desk. Eloise, Theo, and Addie were somewhere else in this house, and Pippi and Lucretia were in the kitchen.
So what does that matter?
Well, when Lucretia was killed, again, nobody could have done it. Unless Pippi was lying, Lucretia was alive when she went into the closet and mighty dead when she came out. And Pippi could never have hung her up on the door that way.
Kissy, we know all this. I don't follow you any more than Dave.
Hold on, I'm starting to get a glimmering. Neither murder could have been done, but we know both murders were done.
And Pippi's murder almost done.
And the killer had to be somebody already in this house. But everybody is perfectly alibied for both occasions, which means there has to be a Confederate in the house, too.
Confederate? Ha! You're saying the murderer is Robert E. Lee?
Addie, there's no call to be flippant.
Never mind turning the clocks back to the Civil War. We need a solution to today's problem.
Holy jumping Jehoshaphat! Dave!
What?
The Sheridan twins. Did the wrecker's clerk give you their weights at birth?
Jerry, have you scuttled your robot or
Just answer
what?
my question.
Sure, this train's not too much for you?
I have the faintest idea what you're driving at, Jerry, but I can give you the answer to that
Not when
question.
you're still a suspect. I'd like to hear it from a cop.
How dare you?
All right, it says right here. Marvin Sheridan was 6 pounds 4 ounces, and Addie Sheridan was 6 pounds 5.
I could have told you that, except for looks, we're practically identical. Weight, length, health.
Beautiful. Then that and Theo's Civil War remark clinches it.
What?
Buzzy, when a woman gives birth to twins, what is the normal, or at least the average, duration between their births, if they are both about the same size and weight?
Well, there's no hard or fast rule, of course, but usually about 5 minutes, 15 tops.
That
When
proves-
she's sufficiently tiny.
Buzzy, not in front of the girls.
Oh, please, Aunt
They
Eloise.
teach that stuff in grammar school nowadays.
But I still think that a sense of propriety should
Let me
be...
boulderize it a bit then. Once the first twin arrives, the way is pretty much cleared for his companion to show up mighty quickly.
That proves nothing except for the fact that our mother had a very difficult time. Surely you'll agree that an interval of 45 minutes is not impossible.
She's got us there, Jerry.
But what in blazes has giving birth got to do with the Civil War?
Not a damn thing.
But you just said that...
It's not what I said. It's what Theo said.
Jerry, sure you're not suggesting that
Oh, Jerry, you can't mean it!
Mean what? I never accused her of anything.
The hell you didn't. We all heard
Hell,
you.
not you two. I was merely trying to find the flaw in a statement we've all been accepting without question.
I've had enough of these insults. Why would I lie to you about my weight at birth? And what possible importance could it have?
I should think it would be obvious to all of you.
Jerry, look out!
That's the thing I saw going for Pippi! Only it wasn't anywhere near that long!
Let it go, Sheridan. The game's up.
Very well, very well.
That's how Walvin's murder was committed.
A nifty little gadget, all right. Pull a handle all the way over here by the bar, and the victim gets it all the way over there by the phonograph.
Sort of a variation on a spear gun, except, of course, if the dagger gets somebody, it remains in the person's back, while the hand and arm thing vanishes again.
Buzzy, you knew about it?
Of course, he must have. That's why he faked that argument with Jerry. So Jerry would walk away from the group and tempt Addie to employ that dagger thing.
Right.
Excuse me, Bob.
Yes.
What in the world does this have to do with the Civil War?
As I already told you, Mrs. Travers, nothing at all.
It was what you said about the Civil War that gave us our clue.
Theo, what did you say?
I really can't remember right now. It was right after Addie made that snide remark about Robert Lee. I remember that much.
But then you snapped at her about turning the clocks back. That's the clue I've been searching for.
I wish you'd explain it to me, Jer.
Wait, I don't understand how you got the job on Addie. I figured you'd be in with the two of them.
Not quite all the way, I'm afraid. You see, they just told me to get the drop on whoever went behind the bar. But why it turned out to be Addie, I hadn't the faintest idea.
So the will was absolutely correct about Sheridan being the killer.
Yes, Pippi, very much so. Josiah was a very shrewd man. He'd merely forgotten the significance of the date on which the twins were born.
15 minutes apart.
So, what does that mean?
Okay. The twins were born on Halloween, early on a Sunday morning, which would make it the last Sunday in October.
Jerry, we know that much.
But what do we do every year on the last Saturday in October?
We turned the clocks back!
But what has that got to do with the last Sunday?
Because that's the real time we're supposed to turn the clocks back. Most people do it on a Saturday night before they go to bed.
But the actual official turn back time is 2 a.m. Sunday.
So you're saying that...
Addie Sheridan was born at 1:50, as Dave told us. And then 10 minutes later...
He turned the clocks back to 1 a.m.
5 minutes past 1, Marvin Sheridan was born, which makes Addie our older Gemini, just as Josiah told us.
I never did like having that woman, or any woman around for that matter. Now I know why.
Mr. Delvin, I must apologize. I would be most pleased to have a puzzle expert in the family. Oh, wait. That still doesn't explain the attack on Pippi.
Yes, Addie, why did you try to kill Pippi?
First things first, I want to know why Addie murdered Josiah.
And why she felt it necessary to chop him into 17 pieces?
Yes, Addie, that was, among other things, a bit excessive.
I will admit, I did rather lose my head at the time. But what would you have done? He had just completed his will, and I knew that I would need my legal fees from his estate to settle my gambling debts. So, as soon as it was completed, seeing as we were the only two in the house, I hit him on the head with that meat cleaver. He died instantly, you'll be relieved to hear. But then, I picked up the will, and I tried to read it.
And you couldn't, no more than the rest of us.
Precisely. Furious, I took out my rage and frustration, the only way handy to me at the moment.
Oh, but Addie, 17 pieces?
After the first 10 whacks, I kind of lost count.
All right, I'll take over from here. Addie, come with me. No one leave the house. You have a few odds and ends I'd like clear up when I get back.
I'm
I've got an odd one right now, Dave. Just why are you taking her to the station?
Are you serious? I'm a police officer, and it's my job.
Aren't you forgetting that the police are already on their way?
That's right. He called him on the phone right over there just a while ago.
Just a long while ago, come to think of it.
So what are you saying?
That your behavior is a bit screwy, for one thing. Let me just check up on that phone call.
Hold it right there.
And you did take that call.
And pretty cleverly, too. Why this joker even pretended to be asking questions about a strangulation?
Nice touch myself.
I don't understand. What has Dave got to do with all this? Oh, Theo, sometimes I don't think you've got the brains you were born with. Dave is that Confederate we were postulating.
Good for you, Eloise.
It's pretty chipper for a man who's about to die, Jerry. Damn it, Addie, get her gun.
I have a question. I mean, since you're going to kill us anyway, can you at least tell us why you tried to kill Pip?
And why should I?
That's not fair. The killer always tells on the last reel.
But this isn't the last reel, Kissy. This is just the start. We dispose of the lot of you, take a pleasant plane right over Lucerne.
Addie, it's not even that long. The money's not in Lucerne.
Ah, then you caught that bit, did you?
What bit?
The misinterpretation of Lucerne and Erebus, of course.
Then you did do some hanky-panky, Jerry.
Well, yes. But not to you. At least, not on purpose. I had to keep Addie and Dave in the dark about it. Sorry I had to flummox the rest of you at the same time.
Are you saying you knew I was in on this from when we started decoding the well?
Yes, but I can't take any credit for that. Flame told me.
But how did Flame know?
I knew even before I got here tonight. You see, Dave, you weren't as deft as you thought trying to get Dan out of the picture. He saw who was driving that hit-and-run car.
Wait, he couldn't have. I had a scarf across. Yeah, you got me there, didn't you?
I'll admit I exaggerated slightly. No, he didn't see who was at the car, but when I spoke with him early in his hospital room, he and I were both certain that the reason he'd been hit was so someone else could come in his place. I knew he was guilty from the moment you walked in the door.
But I thought he was pretending to be Dan so that...
Without telling Dan what he planned to do.
And what kind
Not
of
very
cop,
likely.
when his partner's almost been killed, doesn't even bother to pay a visit in the hospital?
That's right, I guess, for all the good it's going to do you.
Wait.
Question. If Josiah knew we'd find the box, why bother giving us numbers?
There you've got me.
Why don't we open it up and find out?
Hold it right there. Addie, you look.
Right. I hate to keep harping on the subject, but why did someone try to kill Pippi?
Well, when I overheard her talking to Lucretia about if anything should go wrong, that she could have the eagle, she might get sentimental and pick it up and then find
Hold
out
on,
that
backtrack a bit. When did you overhear them talking?
When he was hidden in that closet shortly before I rang the bell.
I congratulate you, Mr. Delvin. How did you know?
Hell, the cigarette panel wasn't all that hard. When I knew there had to be one in the closet.
How did you know?
Because it was the only explanation for Lucretia's murder. Pippi could have hefted the body up under the door hook, and the closet was empty when we found Lucretia, so there had to be another way.
But, Jerry, when you came out of the closet, you said you couldn't find the secret panel.
Kissy, honey, he didn't want Dave to know he'd found it.
Why not?
Because the panel opened onto the front porch. And who was it that came in from that front porch just moments later?
Oh, and that snake! That wonderful, lovable snake!
Wonderful, lovable?
Oh, stop being so silly, both of you. I didn't mean Dan.
Then who?
Why, Charles, of course, my late husband. He used to stay out till all hours sometimes, and I'd be very angry. And so many nights I'd suddenly hear him snoring, and there he'd be, asleep in his favorite armchair with a book open on his lap.
Do you mean to say that
Oh,
Charles...
how very devious of Daddy!
I can see him now, popping into the closet door, ditching his hat and coat, easing out through the closet door.
Then grabbing a book, sliding into the chair and snoring, so I think he'd been there all along.
He sounds like a man I'd have liked to have known.
Oh, he was. He really was.
I got it. And here's why we needed those numbers. It's got a combination lock.
Well, hurry and open it up. Let's get out of here.
And what were those numbers anyhow?
3, 2, 3, 5, 8, 2.
Zeta, as soon as she opens that box, they're gonna kill us.
Ah, but she's not going to open the box.
Oh, and why not?
Because you're a frog.
Addie, what's going on? Are you not crazy?
No, that was me when he turned me into an idiot.
You know, you should never mess with a gypsy type.
Oh, no, you're not gonna do that to me, too.
But now, Dave, Addie's out of commission, and you certainly can't shoot all of us.
Guess you're right, you stinking super brain. So if I had to pick the most important one first,
No! He won't! Lucretia!
What? But you're dead. If you're not, you're gonna be. What the hell?
Oh, my God!
Listen, everybody. Are those police sirens?
But I thought Dave faked that call.
Oh, he did, but there's an extension in my bedroom. Found him just before I came out.
But Buzzy, when you examined her on the sofa, you said she was dead.
What did you expect me to do? Let the killer know he goofed so he tried to kill her again?
You're much smarter than you look.
Oh, shucks,
For those of you who missed it, the box was underneath the bird, and the bird belonged to Lucretia. It was Lucerne, not Lucerne. Cedar, can you do something about her amphibian friend?
Whoops, sorry. Yes, a frog was the first thing that popped into my head. You're a bran muffin.
Oh, Zeta, aren't you forgetting something?
What? Oh, sorry, yes. A breathing bran muffin. Thank you, Buzzy.
Oh, Lucretia, you took such an awful chance. What if he had shot you before you clobbered him over the head with the pan?
But there was no chance of that, my dear. I emptied the bullets out of the gun hours ago. We gypsies are very adept at pickpocketing.
Hours ago? You mean even before they got the drop on us?
We wanted to be prepared just in case. We didn't know when he'd revert to type exactly.
But how do you know Dave was in cahoots with Addie?
Because it was the only explanation for Morven's murder. Whoever triggered that dagger mechanism to kill Morven's had to be behind the bar at the time. And that's where Dave was all by himself.
But how did he turn the lights out from there?
I suspect that's where Addie came into it. After having gone into the bathroom, leaving the ladies alone for a moment, she ducked out the bathroom window, snuck around to the front porch panel, and reached out of the closet to darken the room. Then all she had to do was worry about getting back to the bathroom while Dave was eliminating Morven's from the bar.
Look, we can iron out the details of the will later. Right now, let's get a look into that box.
You're right. After all, the contents of this box is what the entire evening's been about.
And I need a drink. That noose was helping my neck one day.
You're lucky you've got a thick neck.
Got it. Here we go.
What is it?
This was Frank's hair.
I'm afraid not. It seems we all made one mistake about those holy hot dogs. That's not what they represent at all.
Then what, Jerry?
Well, those aren't hot dogs. Those are pods. And those aren't holes. They're seeds. What Josiah was drawing there is St. John's bread.
Hey, isn't that another name for, oh yes, a carabine?
Right. And knowing how Josiah luxuriated in puns, what would that term suggest?
Caribbean, like the Caribbean Sea.
Exactly. And considering the term sea in financial circles, what would that convey to you?
100, like in a C note, $100 bill.
Right. And in this box, nice thick packets of 1,000 apiece are more C notes than I've ever seen in my entire life. What do you mean we?
Oh, no, Jerry. Oh, Jerry.